It's a new week of SDH AM. John's hair's out of control. What else is new? John, hear you there. Hopefully, underlined, exclamated, italicized, boldface print, what have you. You have your power. You haven't had to worry about transformers blowing or anything like that. That you got your pipes haven't frozen. That you kept your pipes on. That your pets are safe. That your plants are safe if you're in that kind of a mode. But it's another week of SDH AM in conditions here in Atlanta, and I know that it's worse a lot north of where we are. So obviously we're thinking about you and sending our love to you this morning. And it is another week here of SDH AM. So traditionally it is today catching up on the weekend. It will be no different. Abe Gordon's going to drop by in about 10 minutes. We'll talk about Atlanta United as they get ready for preseason match number 1 coming up on Friday. It's Lexington SC making a road trip. We'll find out what's on Abe's mind with Atlanta United. Maybe take a tour around the rest of Major League Soccer a little bit. Then at 10 o'clock, Bart Keeler is going to join us. Very, very busy weekend on the national team side, either active or those who are hoping to get back into it. Women's national team had a 6-0 win. In between Abe and Bart, we'll look at that, kind of set everything up for Bart coming up at 10 o'clock. We'll talk about the return of Trinity Rodman. We'll talk about the first-timers. We've got sound from Emma Hayes. We have sound from Reilyn Turner. We have sound from Trinity Rodman. We've got some goals. We'll go through all of that between 9:30 and 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock is Bart. Get into the women's national team there. Get into the activity of Yanks Abroad. And there were a couple of calls that stuck with me from the weekend that I wanted to go over with Bart that might have raised some eyebrows across the board. And then we got to get into the Premier League and all the other news. There's some transfer stuff that's out there, updating you on latest reports, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, all that kind of stuff, getting you ready for today. Remember, tonight, 8 o'clock, it will be soccer over there. You'll have your standard bit of chaos and then picks of the week. I don't quite know how I did. I probably didn't win the week. And the reason I say that is because Jason has not reached out to me and said, hey, I need 4 matches to, for you to pick going into next week. So we'll find out what's going on there. All right. Then the rest of the week, Keeler Hodges is going to join us tomorrow. And it's that time of the month where we check in with Keeler, find out what's going on with the USL Championship and League One. Get you ready for that. Then we have, who do we have this week? Chad Emerson from Huntsville City is going to be joining us on Wednesday as they're getting ready in MLS Next Pro. There's been some roster turnover in the offseason. We'll catch up with Chad, find out about Hunt City, what's going on there. And we have the Bolos out for all of our other friends and family, the Power Hour on Thursday, getting ready for Friday. And it's going to be yet another week here of SDH AM. So that is the rundown as we know it. And good morning, Ricky. Morning, Abby. The matches start Friday. Ricky's like, preseason starts Friday. Well, they're already trying to stay warm in places not known as this area code. But yeah, first preseason match is, I think it is now in the afternoon at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground, closed door. And if I'm not mistaken, it is going to be streamed. Let me double check really quickly here. I think it's at ATLUTD.com/live. And let me see what we've got here. So preseason training sessions, the 2 schedule, Caden Moore, all the things. So schedule, do we have it under schedule? Do we have it under schedule or do we just have it? No, we just have the regular season. Okay, so hang on just a second. Matches, training notes, transfers. Where is it? Children's Showcase. Like I said, if I'm not mistaken, it is Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground, and it is on Friday. I think it's Friday afternoon. It was supposed to be Friday morning, but I think they've pushed it to help out with the preseason and the weather and everything. So availability report. Hang on. Schedule. Where's the preseason schedule at? So as I sit here and I slide down through everything. So no, not season tickets. So of course now this is going to bug me. Availability reports, all those kinds of things. Preseason schedule. Okay, here we go. It is it was initially ATLUTD.com/live. Supposed to be on the 30th, which if I remember correctly is Friday. It better be Friday. So hang on. Yeah, Friday. Okay, so Friday was supposed to be 11, but I think they pushed it back a little bit because of the weather and the impending everything that's there. So, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. It's going to be pushed back, I think, to like afternoon to let it warm up a little bit. But yeah, first preseason match. 4 preseason matches. It is the one at Marietta against Lexington SC. We get to see our old friend Philip Goodrum. Get to see our friend Steve Cook. I think Steve's making the trip down, and then from there they go to Houston, Texas, to play the Dynamo on the 7th, and then they go to Frisco to take on Red Bulls, and in the Torneo de Tejas, and they take on FC Dallas on the 14th. And that is your preseason schedule before the regular season kicks off at FC Cincinnati on the 21st. So, yeah, we're like, what, almost a month away from the regular season kicking off? So that's where we are, man. So that is absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Friday AM temperature 29, high for the day is 46. So I think that's why they pushed it back a little bit. I think it's going to be like a 1 o'clock or something like that. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be at the 11 o'clock start, but it will be streamed atlutd.com/live. Okay. All right. That is a little bit of that. All right. You might notice that lower third, just to let you know what's going on before Abe Gordon joins us here in a sec. Abby, glad you made it in time. Yeah, I almost fell down the front step. I had a moment with me, and let me go ahead and bring Abe in because it's one of those moments where I have to have Abe here just to kind of be a sounding board. All right, so I was telling folks to look at my lower third. Almost fell down the front steps. I had one of those moments, and I guess technically this might be a bit of opening kickoff. What is your setup when it comes to precipitation and days like we've had over the last couple of days when it comes to leaving your abode and making sure that you are as safe as possible with Chipper in tow?
I think the first part is make sure Chipper doesn't pull me upon first dangerous step or two. And despite being a husky, she is not unused to slipping on the ice on her own doing. We she runs on the concrete, and sometimes her nails are probably a little shorter than a normal huskies might need to be just naturally. I don't cut them or anything, but the concrete does its job, and so she'll slip on the ice as well. So we just got to make sure we aren't both going down. But no, she's pretty good at walking, so she doesn't drag me or pull too much badly. We were lucky where I was. There wasn't too much liquid on the ground. It didn't rain. Obviously, I don't want to speak for any other locations.
Yeah.
We didn't get as much rain as maybe we thought heading into Wednesday or Thursday, even Friday. And I think the wind did its job. It kicked up and kind of dried off the street before it got sub-freezing. And so there really wasn't a ton of ice to be concerned about in my neighborhood. And so the rest of the day is just hopefully not too many more trees come down and take power lines with them. So, but we got it pretty light on my end.
Yeah, on our end, we have here at the Casa, we have the standard, townhome subdivision. Everybody has the steps, and they all look the same. And it's, you have your front stoop, and then you've got your 4 or 5 steps, and then, it's on at that point. So after Saturday, on Sunday morning, I am trying to, and I saw the icicles on the edges and the trim and everything. So I'm thinking, all right. So I take my first step onto the mat at the top. I come out the front door, first step on the mat. Everything's fine, and then the rowdy man starts to storm down the steps, and he's a house of fire. He's got to do his bit. And so I'm trying to keep up with him. I take that first step off the mat, and I almost take an absolute header. And I'm like grabbing a banister that's got ice on it, trying to hold on to him. And I almost take an absolute header on Sunday morning. So that was not advisable at that point. So at that point, I said, okay, guess what? We are going to be going in and out from the garage from this moment forward. And I'm putting salt on the driveway, and I'm putting salt on the front steps. And I'm not doing that at least ever again this time. So, yeah, I came that close to taking an absolute header.
Yeah, there's an art form too, because you don't think about taking steps normally. You just trust that you're gonna up and down the steps fine. When there is ice, or even when there's just rain, depending on the sort of step and what it's made out of, there is an art form to keeping your body weight above your foot. And you know me, when we're out there running and we
Yeah,
have to deal with this. The one time that I have to deal with this most while running is like the if it has rained or is raining, the paint that is a crosswalk,
Oh, yeah.
it can become very slick.
Yes.
And when you're running, you're obviously striding, and your body weight is not over your feet for portions of when you land or when you take off. And so you have to be very cognizant of like how you're striding and where you're putting your foot if you're coming to a crosswalk or any sort of street paint along those lines. Sometimes those grates that they use to cover potholes can become very slick if it's rained or is raining. So I've become very familiar with readjusting stride and making sure my body weight is fully straight above where my foot placement is. Because, if you get in front or behind, you can go down. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So we have been going in and out of the garage ever since. Driveway's pretty safe, but because we are in a swale, the water has collected on the front curb, and so that's a bit of an issue, for any kind of walk-in going forward. So your Klutz host here had his moment on Sunday, and hopefully it is passed as we go. Normally, the reason we bring you in is not to talk about John being a klutz. It has to do with Atlanta United. And I was explaining to everybody, you got your first preseason match coming up on Friday, which is wild when you think about it, because you think that the season just ended. The season ended a couple months ago, but it just seems like it just ended. And now we're getting ready to get back at it. They're in South Florida. They're getting warm. They're getting all the muscles warm and everything. We got Lexington SC coming up here on Friday. That's crazy.
Well, and it's been kind of a shorter off season, not necessarily by date or by time, but by news cycle, right? And it kind of, you obviously took a little bit of time, and the conversation went around the manager. And then when Tata was hired, the conversation continued about, all right, who's he want, who is out, and then the transfer window hits, a couple of things here or there. And all of a sudden you're in where we are now, mid to late January, looking at the schedule. And look, we are now officially less than a month away from that first game that counts. And so you've got a month, 3 weeks now to build up to it. And there are still a ton of questions because of the turnover. And we've talked about this the past couple of weeks. And when we get to Friday, and look, obviously how it looks in the first preseason match against Lexington is not like some huge barometer for how it's going to look.
What?
Game one? I know it's tough to hear, but you'll see progressions through the preseason as you probably try and get towards the final preseason match, maybe a little bit of a precursor. And to some extent, they're probably going to try and keep some of this secret. I know not all these matches are going to have major coverage, but they're not exactly dark, the old wrestling where you go dark matches and no one knows the results of what happened. Word gets out, news gets cycled around. But look, I'm interested in the same positions and pairings that we've talked about. Who is alongside Miggy and Almiron and Moranchuk in the midfield? Yeah. Who is there at left back? Who is there up top on the left? Is TRA getting first run, more run, or is it going to be Latte Loth? How are we looking at netminder? Is it a real competition? Are they just handing this to Jaden Hibbert? There's still a lot of things that I think we can kind of pick apart and learn from the preseason. I haven't gotten an update on Edwards and Fortune. Is their health back? Are they fully fit? Are they still working around? Can Stian avoid some sort of preseason muscle problem? There's still a lot of reasons to focus on the preseason. And quite honestly, and I know the team's been down in Miami. They've been rubbing it in our faces via social media posts.
True.
Day by day, as it is, was in the single digits this morning, or the felt like was in the single digits when I was out walking. So they're on a nice beach kicking a ball around like the old David Beckham commercial.
Uh-huh.
But it's going to be interesting to see just a couple of those things that maybe you are unsure of heading into the season, and and the other thing is just what looks different from a macro perspective, and I'm not the most like overall tactics guy. I see what's going on in the game and I know what is working in the moment and what is not. I let Maddie and you and Jason kind of detail tactically what is happening in a specific. I know the specific in-game moment. You guys maybe provide more of what's supposed to be happening. I kind of speak about what actually happened and where the problem therein lies.
Right.
But I think you'll probably start to see, if you're knowledgeable enough about this, which I probably am not, some differences between what they were asked to do defensively, offensively, in the build, in the retreat, in the counter, all of that, from Dyla now to Tata. And does it look the same as it did, what was it, 7, 8 years ago, 6 years ago originally? Or is there some modifications now a couple of years later, both due to changes from Tata, but also changes to the roster, changes to personnel? So again, it's preseason generally, and I know you joked with me about email. Let's just get out of it with no one hurt. Yes, there's definitely that. But I do think there is some stuff you can learn because of all the new pieces that maybe you wouldn't focus on if you were returning all 11 starters, if you were returning a manager, and all things kind of stayed the same.
So you mentioned position battles, and I guess we can take it from that perspective if we think of it like American football. In net, there's a position battle. At center back, I think there's a position battle. And let's see. So then your sixes, I think if all things being equal and everyone being healthy, there's a position battle at the six. There's a position battle at center back. There's a position battle in net, position battle at striker. And then you mentioned the gaps that are there. I'm not calling them position battles necessarily because, once again, you're trying to figure out folks that would be going into those spaces to have said position battle. So striker, six, center back, and netminder. So you're looking at 4 position battles.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like, ideally, you're not, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And I don't think as many of these are position battles as much as they are Tata has an idea of who he wants there and just wants that idea to be confirmed. Like, with respect to Jamal Tiare, I think we're all huge fans. We want Latte Loth to be starting up there. Right. I think we need that to be confirmed. And I have my preference along the back. Like, for me, it would be Stian and Mihai. That's who I want back there. I'm waiting for that to be confirmed. If you believe Barakal is that guy instead, I'm not going to fight with you over it, but that's just where I'm at. And so some of these, I don't know if they're true position battles or more just like confirmation, reaffirmation of this is what I want, and it is working out in that manner. So it'll be really interesting to see. But look, you talk about some of those as quote battles. I mean, if Jamal Tiare is starting up, and again, I love Jamal Tiare. I think he's great for this club. But if Jamal Tiare is starting in game 1 for this team, like, there's a real problem with what's going on with Latte Loth, the money being spent there, and the quality.
Yeah, and you mentioned center back. You've got to have insurance because of competitions and depth and things like that. So having a Barakal with a Mihai and a Gregerson and a healthy Matt Edwards, subtle plug. There's a story up and an interview with us here at SDH with Matt Edwards, where Maddie and Jason got to catch up with him. At the 6, you're hoping that you have a healthy Jay Fortune to go with Steven Alzate. Then you're looking at, Tristan William-Bob being a part of that discussion too. And yeah, I think that when you discuss things going on at striker, yes, if Jamal is shining brighter than Latte Lot, then that is not a battle that you were looking at as being a battle. And then you got to sit there and really take out the magnifying glass with those. When it comes to those gaps that you're talking about at the left, and in the midfield, who's going to be integrating with Miggy and AM59? Who are you spot shadowing coming into this week before this first exhibition game on the left? Is it Luke and Saba on the left, or what are you staring at on that open spot on the left-hand side?
Yeah, I think it is Luke and Saba, and I I don't know if I have a preference either. I mean, I've really liked Saba, but for whatever reason, and it's gone back and forth, especially last year, it just felt like he was better from the right side, but he had some danger at the left side. And I'm also just trying to kind of wonder how much, and Saba gives such great effort, how much more we could get out of him in a 30-minute spurt coming off the bench. And if he's the guy that we kind of look at as a super sub up top, I know there have been a lot of different guys up top at various times last year, but the idea that you have Luke Brennan up there for 60, 65, 70 minutes, and then if Miggy's run his course, you can make the change for Saba. If Luke needs a role, you can make the change for Saba. And so I do wonder if you kind of lean towards Saba off the bench, and it's tough because he's had runs. Even last year when the team was struggling, he had runs for like 5 or 6 games. You're like, well, that's very clearly the most dangerous guy on the team right now. He's also had runs where you're like 2 or 3 games and he completely disappears, no assists, no shot on goal, nothing dangerous. And so it's just one of those times when he gets hot, he gets as hot as anyone on this team. Speaking about Saba, is that something that kind of rolls into it? You can't put yourself in a situation where you have to play through a couple of down matches hoping he gets going into one of those runs. And so, yeah, that one is probably the most interesting to me. Like honestly, with respect to center back, left back, right back, midfield, goalkeeper, I think the most interesting decision or battle or whatever you want to call it is who's on the left up top. And there might even be some names, I'm kind of sitting here and saying it's between Saba and Luke Brennan. Maybe there's other guys involved as well, but that to me is the most fascinating one because I think it's so easy to make valid arguments for both of those guys. Whereas when I look up top, like the argument to make is Latte Loth. Mm-hmm. When I look in back, for me, the argument is Jaden Hibbert. Like those to me are defined arguments that I feel comfortable with. I don't have a preference. Like, I feel like every other position I kind of have a preference for. I want Matt Edwards involved. I want Jay Fortune involved. I want an AM Mihai. I want Latte Loth. I want Jaden Hibbert. Now, my preference may be wrong, but I have a preference. I don't think I have a preference up top. And so that one is as interesting, fascinating to me as probably all the others combined, if we're going to be honest.
Well, and I will say this about Saba. If you go back 2 seasons, when Saba was the guy, you saw him embrace that role, and he was the leader and all of those things that were part of that. But then when you bring in all these other pieces, he turns into a guy and not the guy. And I thought that he was putting a lot of pressure on himself to try to replicate what happened 2 years ago. And I think that manifested itself in his play at times last season, where you could see, I thought Saba was pressing to try to get that form and to be that person that he was 2 seasons ago.
Well, and it's also going to come down to, again, the style of play, and does it suit Saba or does it suit Brennan a little bit better? I think that's always going to be part of it as well. I think there were a number of guys who put too much pressure on themselves at times last season. I think Saba certainly was one. I think Miggy certainly was disappointed as well. I think Sleesh at times probably wanted to do more despite what he was already doing. And so I just think there were a lot of guys that carried, put too much on their plate. And you got to remember, like, it's a team game. It can't be about stats. It can't be about this. It can't be about that. It's got to be about 3 points for the team, not I got a goal, I got an assist. And so, yeah, I think you all have to work towards that common goal. And whether it's you or someone else, you kind of got to sit with it because, yeah, I think there were a lot of players in again, match performance and overall results aside, who were disappointed in what they provided for the club. And I don't know if that's the right mindset necessarily for this because the fans are not really going to nitpick whether you have goals or assists if the team's winning. and vice versa. You can score as many goals as you want. If you pick up a draw or 0 points in that game, no one's happy about you having a hat trick if the team also gave up 4, right? I mean, so it's all about the common goal and working together. And any team, not just ours, is better as a unit than individual and some of the parts and all that stuff. But I definitely think there are guys that let pressure affect them over the course of the season last year. Again, because it was going poorly, they probably wanted to do more. That's maybe trying to do too much, which then puts you in trouble.
Right, and then the cycle continues.
Yeah.
By the time you come back next week, after being properly hydrated, what is the hydration of choice, sir? What are you?
This is a Rockstar Pure
Wow.
Zero.
Wow, that's heavy duty.
The jug of water's next, and then, well, I might run today. It kind of depends what the temperature looks like later. It looked okay on the streets and sidewalks, like I said, ice-wise near me.
Yeah.
So they closed my gym. I would have done a treadmill run, but my gym is closed today. And so if we're going to run, it's going to be outdoors.
No doubt. As always, my friend, thanks for kicking off the week with us and going through our Atlanta United talk. Next time we see you, we'll have match stuff to talk about with Lex SC. Stay hydrated and choose wisely when it takes to your steps. And thanks for the advice, but especially the reminder about the crosswalks. I've forgotten about that.
Oh, yeah. It's a dangerous one out there. So everyone stay safe, stay warm. Hope if you've lost power, you're probably not watching this actually.
Wow.
Wasting all your battery life on your phone. But I hope everyone does stay warm. I hope no other trees come down, and we get back to regular life tomorrow.
You got it. We'll see you next week, my friend.
You got it. Thanks, John.
There goes Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. And Abe always kicks off the week with us here. All right, so to refresh right now with how things are and roster and all of that. Okay, so here is how it is currently with the roster. And you're looking at a roster of 26 with some changes right now. So in net, it's Jaden Hibbert, Lucas Hoyos. And you look at that one and you're like, okay, Jaden Hibbert, we know what we saw. And can that continue to be replicated as he gets more and more used to the speed at MLS level? We knew when we were watching him with the twos at MLS Next Pro that he was completely and totally dancing on his head at times. And he had what it was. He had what it took or takes. He has what it takes. He had what it took to be, at the next level. We saw it in other competitions. Then you have the mantle somewhat being passed with the retirement of Brad Gazan, and Jaden Hibbert gets the reps later in the year, and so on. You bring in the experienced backup with Lucas Hoyos, and it looks like that's a 1A and a 1B, or a 1 and a 1A, however you want to phrase it. You have the experienced veteran, or an inexperienced veteran. I've never heard of an inexperienced veteran before, but anyway, you have the veteran in Lucas Hoyos. You have Jaden Hibbert. Right now, that's what it looks like in net. Defenders: Amador, Barakal, DCQ, Matt Edwards, Ronald Hernandez, Stian Gregerson, Tomas Jakob, and Mihai. And remember, Caden Moore has been loaned to Philadelphia Union for the year. So calendar year loan, Caden Moore to Philly. So you're looking at Amador, Barakal, who is on loan from Getafe through the end of the fiscal year, June 30. DCQ, Matt Edwards, Ronald Hernandez, Stian Gregerson, Tomas Jakob, and Mihai. So if you're looking at center back, then it is Barakal, Edwards, Gregerson, Mihai. That's your 4 center backs at the moment. Right back, it is Tomas Jakob, Ronald Hernandez. Left back, it is Pedro Amador, DCQ. And then, so did I have 2? Yeah, 8. Okay, so 2 at left back, and we'll check the Elias Baez rumor train here in a second. But you're looking at Amador and DCQ at left back, Jakob and Hernandez at right back, and then you have the 4 center backs: Barakal, Edwards, Mihai, Gregerson. That's the way it is right now with your 8 defenders. Then your midfielders, and there are plenty. Miggy is considered a midfielder currently in the layout of the roster space. So Miggy, Alzate, Jay Fortune, Saba's considered a midfielder. Alexi, Muyumba, Santi Pita, Will Riley, Cooper Sanchez, Aiden Torres. And right now, If you look at those 10, obviously you've got Miggy on the right with the relationship with Alexi. And then you have, if you think of the 4-2-3-1, then your 2 6s would be some combination of Elzate and Jay and Tristan and maybe Will and Cooper. So that's what you're looking at with the two 6s. There's a big battle there for whatever you want to call it, minutes, what have you. Then in the attack, it's Miggy, Saba, Alexi, Santi Pita, and Aiden Torres, I think, could probably be in that discussion as well. But you're looking at, say, Cooper Sanchez, Will Reilly, and Aiden Torres probably getting more minutes with the 2s to start. And then, what happens in the day-to-day and the weekly with Jose Silva in practices, you never know. So that's what you're staring at with your 10 midfielders. Right now you have 4 forwards listed as forwards. So if you take the 14 individuals that are midfielders and forwards and group them together, that's why I said Miggy's listed as a midfielder, Saba's listed as a midfielder, and Santi Pita midfielder. Okay, so but just the 2 that we would normally think of, Miggy and Saba, are listed as midfielders currently on the roster. Your forwards, Luke Brennan, Latte Lot, Jamal, and Cayman Togashi. That should be fairly set. Then remember, Ashton Gordon has been loaned to Chattanooga FC for the calendar year. So Ashton Gordon loaned to Chattanooga, Caden Moore loaned to Philadelphia. So those 2 are out of play. But your forwards, Luke Brennan, part of the discussion on the left, as we were having with Abe. And what is it going to look like on the left? Is it Saba and Luke? Probably somebody runs for 60, the other runs for 30. And you're running at people and really causing problems. Because if you start Saba on the left, say, and you have Saba run like hell for 60 minutes or 70, then you bring in Luke Brennan to run for the other 20 to 30, run him into the ground. Go for it. So that is how I'm picturing it, literally just off the top of my head. So Luke Brennan, Latte Lot, Jamal, and Cayman Togashi. And that's what you're staring at right now with this roster involving Atlanta United. Now, there were the rumors about Rodriguez, and literally it was a price tag that went well above probably anything that Atlanta United was thinking about over the weekend, and you had a move to La Liga for G-Rod. So that was where that finished up, and it was officially Valencia. Getafe's Ivan Neu was one to watch in the final days of the window, according to our buddy Ben Jacobs. Could be loaned this month. Levante is interested. Valencia had also explored a move prior to signing Guido Rodriguez. So Guido Rodriguez to Valencia, leaving on a free, and that happened this past weekend. And so all set for medical signatures over the weekend. Mate Moreto was the one to help out Fabrizio Romano with that one. So Guido Rodriguez goes to Valencia on the weekend, and that happened, I want to say, Friday. So then that removed Guido Rodriguez from any kind of a discussion. Then you had Elias Baez, who has been looked at for the left-hand side. And you're looking at Cesar Luis Merlo had reported Baez, and this is 5 days ago. But there has not been any kind of advancement in that sense that I can see. So let me double check and see if there is any kind of gossip, rumor, innuendo, whatever you want to call it, involving San Lorenzo and Atlanta United. So you're looking at 4 and 5 days ago, Cesar Luis Merlo discussing what was Elias Baez, San Lorenzo to Atlanta United. So goes back 2 weeks, but nothing new in the sense of, okay, it's locked down and it's something to stare at. But just keep an eye on it, because there has not been any kind of, no, this isn't happening. So that would be the one that is attached right now to Atlanta United is the Elias Baez move. And all right, so if we did, let me check this really quick. And this is from our friends at Transfermarkt. So we're checking to see if there's anything that is the latest involving Baez. And there's also the discussion of Adrian Gill that we got into last week. And so we'll see. Nothing has been officially officialed where Adrian Gill is concerned. Elias Baez from San Lorenzo, the latest reports were a couple of weeks old. So if you're looking at what's in play, you're looking at Adrian Gill from Barcelona, Atletico, and Elias Baez from San Lorenzo. Those are the two that are right now linked to Atlanta United. And let me check the latest on Adrian Gill while I'm thinking about it. Since Elias Baez, if I could spell Adrian. So Adrian Gill, and there were some reports that he was down in South Florida. Remember, Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert 4 days ago through Mundo Deportivo had Gill progressing through Barcelona's academy, and he would hit the cap on the supplemental. So finalizing a deal 4 days ago for the YNT midfielder Adrian Gill from Barcelona. Mundo Deportivo was the first to report that 4 days ago. So no movement in a while on Elias Baez and San Lorenzo, and Adrian Gill, 4 days old from Barcelona's academy. The YNT midfielder, according to Tommy Scoops, was having a deal finalized with Atlanta United. So keep an eye on those two as we are heading into preseason match day -4. That's where we are right now involving Atlanta United. Latest gossip and talk and things like that. Everything else seems to have been shut down as of the first of the year. Literally, there was some stuff involving Boca and Newell's and River, Atletico Mineiro, a couple of different places. That was toward the end of the calendar year. But the ones still going on in play would be Adrian Gill with Barcelona and Elias Baez from San Lorenzo. So keep an eye on those two as we go. So we'll keep an eye on all of those. Question from who was it? I think it was David. David on the Wiley Almada Gam, putting us on the same plane Tata had last time, or are we behind? It would technically, I think it would be behind because of the expansion Gam that you mentioned. But when you look at the Gam in and of itself right now, I think Atlanta was middle of the pack. MLS Gam numbers. All right, so MLS GAM numbers 2026 allocation money, and it was posted almost a week ago. But looking at the numbers, there are some teams that are absolutely hamstrung, but a lot of folks are in that 4.5 to 5 million range. Columbus is over 6, Houston's at 6.5. They got a lot of folks they got to pay. Same with Messi and friends. They're at about 6.5. Minnesota's got the most at 7.25. Montreal's over 6. Real Salt Lake's almost at 7. And St. Louis City SC is at a little over 6. So, middle of the pack for Atlanta at 4.5. Trying to count how many teams are less than Atlanta. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14, literally middle of the pack for Atlanta United. Literally middle of the pack when it comes to GAM. 4,586,967. So almost 4.6 million in Garber bucks, and that's where Atlanta United is right now with what they got to pay and what they got to lay out for everything else. And you look at, and this is the other part, and this kind of was leading into almost opening kickoff-y kind of things, where we still haven't gotten the money on Thiago Almada. I do have a bit of a John Textor update, and it has to do not with him paying money where he should, but there was a conversation. The fans at Botafogo, we mentioned last week that the fans at Botafogo are less than pleased with John Textor. And then, of course, he came out and was kind of chasing after the fans at Botafogo on social media over the weekend. And so I'm trying to see if I can find where it was. Hang on just a second. It might have been on the 280 character app. So hang on just a second. Let me see if I can find. John Textor basically decided he wanted to snap back at the Botafogo fans, and I don't think it went well. Let's see. It's from the 21st. It was something a little bit more recent. Where is it? Okay. Okay. So, according to French reports, he says that Lyon owes 34 million euro to Botafogo. We took over Lyon when it was in difficulty. We lifted it to the top of the Europa League. Lyon owes a significant sum of money to Botafogo. We are going to recover this debt. And then there was 2 days ago a protest in the streets against John Textor of Botafogo fans. Fans demanding respect for the club shirt, saying that Botafogo doesn't need the American. And so he went to he had, I think it was the same show that he was on previously, and it was once again 2 days ago, and he was not. He didn't seem to be all that happy and optimistic in the conversations that he had, but he was explaining the situation of Botafogo, and he was kind of snapping back at the fans for being as vocal as they were. So if I can find it by the time we get out of here, I'll go and try and chase where it was. Okay. Asked if he intends to leave Botafogo if he doesn't follow through on what he's saying in the live stream since trust has been broken. Response is that he doesn't think about that. He finds it absurd that he is the club's majority partner. According to Textor, when things get tough, you don't just walk away from everything. And apparently there are a couple of investors or former partners of Textor at Fubo, and it will be great in the long term. So Botafogo fans had protested for John Textor's exit, and here's the quote I was chasing. Quote, "It's absurd. If they want to buy, they should make an offer. We own 90% of this club. I'm the majority owner of Eagle, which holds the 90%. Fans are very short-sighted. The fact that they can ask me to leave the club after everything I've already done for them is, in my opinion, absurd. If they want to raise money and buy from me, let them make an offer. But until then, I'll continue running this club," end quote. That's from Arena Alvinegra. So he was not a happy man. And so basically it's like, they're protesting, but if they want to buy it from me. And so that's your latest with John Textor, as it was with John Textor and Botafogo. So it is not going well. And he was not a fan of the protests that were going on over the weekend. So let me say hi to everybody this morning. Morning, Abby. Let's see. Morning, Abby. Morning, Michael. Morning, Lokeville. And let's see. Morning, Dell. Morning, David. And let's see. Morning, Abby, who got back in one piece. Morning, Ricky. And let's see, and that's where we are. Okay, so good morning to all of you folks this morning, and good morning to everybody who's hanging out with us here as we break things down in Atlanta United's universe, Major League Soccer, and going around the planet. All right, coming up top of the hour, it's Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod. Now, to lead into Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod, we got some stuff we got to get into involving the women's national team and their tour to California. They played in Carson, California yesterday, and it didn't really go well for the first 45. It did go well for the second 45. You had a couple of great moments for the women's national team, a couple of first-timers getting their first caps, and folks getting their first goals, like this one, courtesy of our friends at TNT and US Soccer It's Luke Wiseman on the call for a first ever for Reilyn Turner.
In that 0-0 draw against England. Turns 22 next month. This one's played through. It's a chance here for Reilyn Turner. Reilyn Turner! A debut day goal for Reilyn Turner to open the scoring in stoppage time at the end of the first half. A moment to remember for a lifetime.
So you end up with 1 on the board heading into the locker room, 45 plus 3. And then the floodgates open up. You end up with 4 goals in 10 minutes, 5 and 25, but 4 in 10. Allie Sentner gets the first of her brace. 6 minutes later, an own goal. And then in the 56th minute, you end up with this particular moment for someone who had definitely a very, very busy and a very successful week, Trinity Rodman.
I mean, it meant the world. I think I've talked.
Whoops, that's her post game. That's not the goal. Silly man, you loaded the wrong thing. Anyway, it was. Well, let me see if I can find it really quickly here. So, let's see. Upload. Did I do? Here we go. There it is. All right. So I'm going to upload the goal real quick. You were about to hear what Trinity Rodman said after the match, but we haven't completed the match to get into her post game. So here is the goal once again, courtesy of our friends at TNT and US Soccer.
Maybe around the hour mark, Emma Hayes will go further to the bench, having brought on Bethune at half-time. And now here's Rodman down the right side. It's Trinity Rodman! What a week it has been for Trinity Rodman! And she caps it off with a goal as the captain of her country today. 4-0 for the United States.
4-0 at that point. Then you get 2 more. Once again, we mentioned Allie Sentner scoring in the next minute. And then you get another goal from Sears in the 72nd from Croy Bethune. And by the time you're done, it was 6-0 in the matchup over Paraguay, Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. So questions were asked afterward. We'll start with the boss, Emma Hayes, and what she thought about the particular effort, 45 minutes at a time, I guess. We can look at it that way. First series of questions to Emma Hayes, once again, courtesy of our friends at US Soccer in Baritone.
Yeah, I'm happy for her, really am. I think it was a hard year, we all know, and she's ready to move forward, which I think today symbolises that. Like, it's a fresh year, it's a fresh start for her. She's settled, she's happy. I think knowing her future is a big weight off of her shoulders. I think she looked rusty, like all of them did in many ways, but she said to me at half-time, "You're not taking me off till I get a goal because I've got a celebration." And I thought, don't know what that's going to look like. And then she did it, and I couldn't quite see it. Then she came over to me and she asked me to mirror it, and I said, "I'm 49 years of age. There's no chance I'm doing that. My son's up in the stands."
And Reilyn as well, for her to debut with a goal that turns a game that shouldn't be 0-0 into, the start of what we had. She scored the harder chance. That's I said when it went in. I said we've missed some really easy chances up until that point, or really golden chances. But real credit to her, she stuck at it and tucked it away for her first goal. Right time, because she was coming off at half time. So really happy for her and to get that. Like you said, we deserved that. I was probably disappointed we didn't get it a little sooner.
So that's the first round with Emma Hayes. And then she was asked, would you want, when you're starting a calendar year, would you want a match that you're not really challenged per se, and I'll put the word challenge in quotation marks, or do you want one where it is NWSL talent and you're assembling this roster for this? Do you want to be challenged out of the blocks, or do you want to kind of ease into your schedule? And here was Emma Hayes' response. Once again, courtesy of our friends at US Soccer in Baritone.
Listen, you can only play the opponent that's put in front of you, and we all know it's not a non-FIFA window, so it's really tricky to find, I think, tier 1 opponents. But also, having done 25 years as a coach during pre-season, it's the perfect game to play. You have to, these players are building towards the start of their season in March, and that, when you're having to do that within 1 week of pre-season, you want it to be a good introduction. But listen, we're missing a lot of players, and they're a national team that, yes, okay, might not have the resources we have in this country, but don't take anything away from the players, because there's a lot of inexperience out there. We had 3 debutants, players that have only maybe played second or third cap. There was a lot of inexperience for us, and there's a lot of nerves that come with that. But I thought the team handled themselves really well, considering.
Emma Hayes after the 6-0 win. And so then we had players who were asked questions after the match was over. So we'll start with Reilyn Turner. And once again, courtesy of our friends at US Soccer, what it was like in the mix zone after the match. Questions you might have to kind of strain a little bit, considering that folks didn't use microphones and go back and forth. But here's Reilyn Turner in the mix zone after the match.
Today has been a dream come true, honestly. This has been my dream since I was maybe 3 years old. As soon as I knew what it was, I wanted to be here. And just playing here at home too, close to my family, and being able to play with these amazing players, I think this week has been a really big learning opportunity for me, and I'm just really grateful.
It seemed like it took a little bit for you guys to get going. You had a lot of chances early. So how sweet was it once that goal finally did arrive, and it kind of set the tone for the second half?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm thankful to have gotten a goal right before second half. I feel like our momentum shifted, and we've been knocking on the door, and I just feel like that's when the floodgates released, and we were able to kind of get in a flow of things. But yeah, like you said, we had a bunch of chances, and as the game went on, we were finally able to put them away, and we've been working a lot on the finishing and creating phase of the game, and I just feel like it was really nice seeing that all come together.
This is kind of a newer group for a lot of a different kind of mix of players. You getting your debut, a few others as well. How's the chemistry? How is it forming combinations with players on the bench?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of younger players, a lot of new players. We've had, I think, there's 5 of us first-timers here. I feel like the team has a really nice foundation of being welcoming, answering questions. I know I've had a lot of questions this week, and we've kind of had to figure it out really quickly, and I feel like everyone's been very helpful, and just the foundation of this team is really strong, and I feel like that has definitely helped us.
Reilyn Turner after her goal on the board in her debut. And then, of course, the focus of the attention in around the women's national team all last week. And then you have the presentation in Los Angeles, Trinity Rodman staying with Washington Spirit. We'll get into that as well, because I don't think we have the chance really to talk to Bart about that either. So plenty to talk about with Bart. But let's hear from Trinity Rodman after the match at the Dignity Health Sports Park, Carson, California, courtesy U.S. Soccer.
I mean, it meant the world. I think I've talked about it already. The last camp I was in was March of last year, so almost a year ago in LA. So a little full circle moment. Had my family and friends behind me. Had an old teammate that I got to play with. I've been playing with her since I was like 11 years old, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm just really happy, and always amazing to get a goal and then to do a celly after.
I was going to say, you brought out the celly.
Yeah.
How did it feel scoring in the back of the net?
It felt really good. I think we had so many chances this game that I was just like itching for one. But yeah, I'm just really proud of the team and glad that I could contribute today.
Speaking of Reilyn, how big was her goal in terms of just getting the goal scoring started?
Yeah, for sure. We needed that. We missed way too many opportunities today. It's like laughing because I was like, we worked on crossing finishing all week. Maybe we like got all the good ones out of the way, and now we're left with the bad ones. But yeah, we just need to clean that up for next game, because we did the hard part, and it's the easy part of just putting in the back of the net. So
there you go, Trinity Rodman. And there you go. Oh, there he is, Bart Keeler. So as we start hour number 2 here on Mondays. It's time to bring in Bart. So now that I have set the table for you, sir, with what happened in Carson, California, what sticks in your mind after it took 45 plus 2 to get a goal on the board, and then you end up with the crash that happened in the second half where you had 4 and 12 and you win 6-0? What's stuck in your head?
Well, good morning, John. First of all,
Morning.
hope everyone is with power and warm.
Yeah.
I'm looking outside my window on Lindbergh Drive, looking at it going, so what happened? Because I don't see
You got
I don't see
nothing.
anything. Uh, and maybe that's what it felt like watching this U.S. women's team in the first half of the game, because there is a lot of smoke, if you will. There is a lot of bluster, but nothing really happened. And I think that is the frustrating part if you're going to be real critical of essentially a preseason friendly with a bunch of players who haven't really played all together all that much before. It did take a while for them to figure out how to put round ball in rectangular net. And once they did, John, it did look like, oh, yeah, we know how to do this. But even within that first half, there were still moments and there were still passages of play that looked good and are replicable, and in theory will then create actual scoring opportunities, if not goals. And that's all you want from these types of friendlies is, are the things you're doing replicable at a real level, if you will? No offense to Paraguay, but this was a preseason friendly with both teams kind of out of season, and a lot of, especially on the U.S. side, a lot of players who aren't, I would consider regulars. There's that word for the U.S. women's national team. So the fact that you still were able to do good things that almost led to better things is a positive.
All right, let's look at the starting lineup. And knowing going in that it was this call up was a bunch of NWSL players and previously unattached folks. McGlynn, Wesley, Rudd, Rodriguez, Giselle Thompson, Claire Hutton, Lola Bonta, Olivia Moultrie, Trinity Rodman, Ali Stentner, Reilyn Turner. So of that starting 11, what do you think?
I thought it was really interesting that we went with a back three with Giselle Thompson as our right back. That was the kind of the first, oh, that's interesting moment for me, because Thompson, like her sister, is a very adept attacking player. Now, she is a good defender. I don't want to take that away from her, but she is a pretty true fullback, right? She will get up and down that line. And so to put her as kind of a right-sided in a three-back and kind of really play true to form to that for the most part was really interesting. So that was number one. Two, and this was really, I guess, maybe more big picture interesting, was Mandy McGlynn does get the start. I think we've talked about there being basically an open tryout for the number one goalkeeper spot on this U.S. women's national team. I don't think Mandy McGlynn, bless her heart, she didn't do anything to say good or bad about her today, because she didn't really, she didn't have anything to do, John.
Until
but I do think it's,
and that was it. Yeah.
yeah, she had a whole one catch basically. That's a good thing in the grand scheme of things if you're the U.S. women's national team, but for her not really being able to show out anything, and really even one of my concerns for her is when the ball's at her feet, she didn't really have any moments where it was because there just wasn't enough times where Paraguay got an opportunity to pressure that high up the field. So it's just interesting that she started. Let's just put it that way, right? I don't know if we learned anything. Outside of that, I actually really liked the midfield that we had with Moultrie, Hutton, Labonta. Labonta, a lot of times playing almost like a right back. Definitely going really far back in possession to get the ball. That was interesting. I really liked kind of seeing that, and I thought Moultrie and Hutton looked really comfortable together. That was really cool to see throughout the first 45. I think really the first, yeah, both of them playing the whole match. They looked maybe a little too comfortable. There were a couple times I was like, all right, ladies, let's get a little serious here. But they were having fun. They liked playing off of each other. That was really cool to see. And I think, again, if you're looking forward, those little pairings in the midfield are good. That's a good thing that we can hopefully say, okay, well, this happened in this match. Can we drop it into another match and it worked the same?
I'm avoiding one person to discuss up top because it's going to be a longer topic.
Yeah, we got two people, especially up top, that I think we can talk in depth about.
Yeah. So Croy Bethune comes in, gives you 45. Emily Sams comes in for the final 30. Hal Hirschfeld was like for Tara Rudd at center back. A lot of folks are used to seeing Hirschfeld as a 6. She plays a little further back.
Why not, John?
I mean, look.
If we're going to try it, this is the perfect time to try it. That's all I'll say.
Then you end up with Maddie Darlene and Sally Menti. You end up with those players coming in as well. So Bethune, Sams, Menti getting her first, Maddie Darlene getting her first, Hirschfeld and Sears as a part of it. So you had 3 players at the end of the day getting their first caps for the national team.
Yep. Which, again, has been a theme under Emma Hayes for basically her entire duration. She truly is exploring the depths of this player pool. Again, I'll just say up front, I don't know how many of these players are, I'm not going to say worthy of a call-up. That's not my point. But truly in the, oh yeah, I'll call them up if I need to type of a category. But you got to have a deeper player pool nowadays for a number of reasons, most notably injury. And then, why not try to explore the depths of what NWSL offers? It still is going, despite what people across the pond might say, it still is one of the, if not the best place to find talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And top to bottom, you're going to find talent coming out of NWSL. Troy Bethune, I think it's no secret, I think it's no secret that she's really good, and it's no surprise that she comes onto the field and we get 5 goals in the second half. I'm not putting it all on her, but I do think she brought what the U.S. lacked in the first half, which was urgency on the ball.
Allie Sentner gets a second half brace. Reilyn Turner becomes the 25th player to score in her women's national team debut. I'm saving that third individual for later because it's multiple topics. The other forwards. What did you think of the other forwards, sir?
Yeah, well, let's take a beat on Reilyn Turner, because I think first that's a celebration moment, right? She's getting her debut in her hometown, place where she not only grew up but played college ball, and gets a goal. And I thought she was pretty good. I will say, I think she did a lot of good things. I think what she struggled with, which maybe to be expected, is a little bit of the pace and physicality of the international game. Paraguay, maybe not the best example of that, but things do move a bit quicker at the international level, both your opponent and your teammates. And I think she had to adapt a little bit to that, but she did. And she ended up getting her goal, and good for her. She comes off at halftime, but okay, fine. But for her, that's all you want to see, right? And this is a very young player. Several players are going to fall into this category, I think, looking back at last year and probably looking at a couple the first camps this year. They're young. They may not be ready right now. That's okay. She still looks like she maybe possibly is ready now, but more importantly, she looks like she'll give you something in the future. And not everything is about, July 2027. There are things as you're building a program that you have to look beyond that.
What?
And Reilyn Turner maybe is one of those thoughts right now. So I thought she was really good. In her debut, right? We'll caveat that.
Mm-hmm.
Allie Sentner, on the other hand, she just scores goals, John. She just scores goals. And I truly think she's got a spot on this roster because you got to have a goal scorer on the team, right? And I think a lot. We're not sure, John, what's going to happen when 2 women who have birthed us future national teamers in the past couple months, manifesting that for them, by the way.
Left foot.
But Sophia Wilson and Mal Swanson should come back this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the expectation.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? We don't know. we have players who we think are good goal scorers with Kat Macario and Alyssa Thompson, but Allie Sintnor, whether she's starting or coming off the bench, she scores goals. And if I'm Emma Hayes, that's really hard to overlook in any sort of roster build, especially when you look at the fact that, you have a World Cup qualification tournament, which is stupid. CONCACAF do an actual qualification process, but you have that coming up at the end of November, beginning of December. You might be in a situation where we need a goal, and being able to throw someone like Allie Sintnor in the field is really important. She does little things well. She does combine well, but I think most importantly, she just has a nose for goal, and it's something that you have to have in a team for a number of reasons. And it's good to have Allie Sintnor doing that and proving she can do it almost every time she comes onto the field.
I think I think the solution is probably just to do a 4-6 formation. You get your keeper and you just go 4-6, 4 defenders, 6 forwards, and just let them all go. All right. We've kind of delayed it.
Somewhere in there, you have Sam Coffey and Claire Hutton. Outside of that, sure, John, just put them out there.
Exactly. So, look, you got to have
4-2-4.
Yeah, well, yeah, really just send them all. Because you're going to need break glass moments. You're going to have break glass moments. And then when you have to sit there and, you break glass and then you can pull Allie Sintnor out and to be that, plug it into the lineup, then that's a good thing. All right. Now, I have buried the lead. Now we got to talk about the lead. Going back to Friday and the signing of Trinity Rodman by Washington Spirit. Obviously, we went in depth into it, hearing from Haley Carter, Michelle Kang, Trinity Rodman. It was one of those moments that I think it means a lot more than folks may realize when it comes to American soccer on the whole. But at the same time, you've got to put a bookmark in it for reasons that we'll get into in a second. So Trinity Rodman stays in Washington. Michelle Kang says she wants Washington to be a destination, and more power to him. Yeah, obviously, you make that happen. But Trinity Rodman stays. What did you think about that finally coming to the fore and having the ceremony and the flashing of the jersey?
Well, John, this had to happen. Let's just be frank. I'm going to get the serious part out of the way first. This had to happen. And WSL could not afford to lose Trinity Rodman, who, from my perspective and from my money, is the biggest name and the brightest face that the U.S. women's national team has right now and the NWSL has right now. Her name obviously is just a point of reference for a lot of people who are not necessarily soccer familiar. But more than that, her play, her production. I mean, she's been to 3 NWSL finals, if I'm counting correctly. She brings something that this league needs: star power. It needs star power, and Trinity Rodman has it. I mean, I'm not saying this is all that matters, but her relationship with Ben Shelton, a very famous American tennis player, things like that matter to a league. But that is all the off-field stuff. When it comes to her playing on the field, she is an amazingly energetic player. She's dynamic, both on the wing when she's able to not just dribble, but her passing is superb as well. Like, everything about her is a star quality player. If you had not been able to keep her in this league, I think this would have been the final straw that would have really signaled a true problem with NWSL. Now, that said, still lots of problems with NWSL, right?
Yeah.
Like, you are still losing a lot of your top talent. We love that Trinity is here. We love that Trinity is going to be the highest paid woman in the world, as she probably deserves. That is great. But I'm still cautious for, whoever those next players are, right? Looking at maybe this team, maybe a Giselle Thompson, right? Who is a really good fullback, right? Look, you have one starting fullback for the U.S. already playing in Europe with Emily Fox. Giselle Thompson could figure to be the other one.
What happens at the end of this upcoming NWSL season in Portland with Sophia Turner? because you're in an
I
option.
mean, you just hit the nail on the head. Right. She has an option. Does she stay? Does she have to go from Portland to a team that can't afford her? Because again, if you're Portland, you don't want to lose Sam Coffey and Sophia Wilson within 13 months.
Yeah.
That they have a lot of issues on their own that they need to figure out, including like, do they actually want to win soccer games again? But that's a whole nother thing. But there are players on this roster, even Reilyn Turner. I mean, projecting, right?
Sure.
But give her a couple years in NWSL, maybe she becomes a really good goal scorer. She could. And you come up and go, well, we don't really want to give you 900,000+ a year, right? But I mean, give it a couple years, there's going to probably be a WSL team that probably has that money and says, we need a kind of a pretty linchpin goal scorer. Is she the player? There are players, and that's just the Americans, right? You are NWSL for a period of couple years in the very recent history was able to get and still has a lot of well-known European players come over here. I mean, you look at Gotham alone with a semifinalist goalkeeper and a finalist striker from Europe, from the Women's Euros on their roster right now. You've got to also be able to pull some of those players from Europe to make your league overall better. There's also the thing that, I think if you look at what's going to make NWSL a powerful force going forward, it's how are you pulling maybe we talked about it a little bit, or they talked about it a little bit on the broadcast, but there's the young Paraguayan star who is now in NWSL. There are other players in South America who hopefully you're looking to NWSL to play in instead of going to Spain, where you're not really getting great competition or great, I don't want to say competition, great facilities and all these things, unless you're playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid, right? I mean, a lot of those teams below them are just trash, to be just fair.
Yeah.
Why not try to find a way to go play at Houston or go play at Utah or Bay or some of these other teams that are not your star quality
the
teams?
check will cash the direct deposit will happen every 2 weeks.
But if you can't get a roster spot because you're saying, hey, I want 500,000, and they're going, well, I don't know, that's a little bit above our salary budget, then John, it doesn't even matter if that check will cash because it's not coming to you.
I know. Also, a couple of notes this morning out of the NWSL. Michelle Prince has signed a new contract with Boston Legacy, 2 years with a club option for a third. And Jordan Dudley, Cambridge High School, she has signed on, and she is heading to Gotham. So
good for her.
Yeah, so Jordan Dudley goes from Florida State to Gotham. That comes out this morning from our friend Jeff Kassouf. So to your point, you are looking at, and this is obviously something that we're going to continue to keep our eye on right now, is the ongoing discussions over the NWSL becoming hip and finding their rhythm in the ones and the threes, and trying to figure out, okay, yes, and Haley Carter did mention in the press conference with Trinity Rodman that they've signed this deal and they're going to abide by this deal. So in a way, you have Spirit sitting there and going, all right, under what we currently understand the rules of engagement to be, we are signing Trinity Rodman to this particular contract. So they are kind of putting things forward by signing a player under the current understandings of the NWSL and the high impact player rule, which you and I have discussed a lot and will probably continue to sit there and go, there are guideposts here that really need to be addressed, in addition to making sure that you can think about it yourself and bring in who you want and turn them into hips. But right now, Spirit have already said, all right, we're taking hip as hip and we're signing Rodman to this deal. Lindsay Heaps, obviously, I imagine she's going to be classified as being hip. You're going to be bringing in all of these players that are going to be classified as being hip, and you're still discussing this right now with the NWSLPA is doing the Dikembe Mutombo finger and going, no, not so fast. And so you have teams signing players under HIP-like deals, and HIP is still being discussed. So the give and take here is going to be interesting going forward. Obviously, I don't anticipate that Spirit are going to sit there and say, well, no, we're not, we've signed it and then we're just going to have to tear it up and do it again. But I think that you've seen the Spirit kind of push the pressure a little bit toward the PA with this signing. It's like, let's get some ish done here and figure it out.
Well, look, I think you have to understand that the people who make these deals are the owners, and those are the ones who voted for the HIP rule. So they're going to operate under those guidelines because they're the ones who win it in theory. Now, at the same time, I think they understand that the PA's proposal of just adding $1 million to the salary cap, they're going, okay, well, we can do that and still have enough for Trinity Rodman to fall under this. Probably still have enough for Lindsay Heaps to blend it. So I think from that mechanism standpoint, they're not really concerned. Just looking at the numbers, yes, if you don't have HIP, then you're going to have to be a little more creative with your accounting. But I think if you assume that HIP is going to go through, great. But if you're also paying for if PA does come back and there's an issue and we end up having to do X, Y, and Z, I still think that they understood that this will fall into whatever framework is allowed outside of this. Now, I will say, I think the $2 million price, right, her salary reported per year, I think that is a result of HIP, right? I think that is them saying, oh, well, we can give her this, that's fine. Now, I don't know what the exact breakdown is. I didn't see that of like how much is HIP and how much is not. I don't know how much of that they'll disclose. If we're not there quite yet, but for MLS, you remember that your salary budget hit for a DP is the max salary budget, which I think is $715 this year.
Yeah, I think it's eventually going like 760, 780 or something like that. But it's in that, and that counts for basically 20% of your entire cap structure, regardless of what you sign the player to. But if you designate them as that DP, those 3 DPs, if you go down that road, could be in theory about half or more than half of your entire roster, which it gives you that juggling aspect that you're talking about. It's like, okay, how do we fit folks in under our cap and still have these DPs? And so that's the juggling act that we see with Major League Soccer with the DP rule. Yes.
And so that's the question. I don't know yet about the rule in MLS because we haven't really seen it in action. Like, even if we have the first HIP player signing on, what does that actually mean? Don't know yet. We don't know yet.
No. Cap once again, $3.5 million per team in 25, expected to be 3.7 and 26 after revenue share, and the creativeness will continue, obviously. And you've got the grievance that is still hanging out there with the NWSLPA and the Board of Governors. So that's kind of where we are with Trinity Rodman. Okay, to the flip side, and getting into
John, can I take a quick?
Sure. Are you you're exercising a timeout here? Yes. You're taking the 30?
Sorry. I just want to. I haven't ranted fully about this, and I'm not going to rant fully about it here. But I just want people to understand, like, I am frustrated that the U.S. women's national team does not get to compete in a kind of true qualifying format. CONCACAF basically allows them to skip it. The U.S. and Canada get automatic buys to the tournament in November, right? It is a single elimination knockout tournament, quarterfinals, semifinals, final. 8 teams qualify. U.S. and Canada are 2 of those. We don't have to go through any of that. Now, there are the other 6 do have to go through the qualification process. Maybe I'm a loner here, but I think it would be kind of fun for U.S. women and probably good for CONCACAF to have to play in some level of qualification to get to the final stage of qualification of World Cup qualification, right? It would be fun for the U.S. women to have to play on the road at, mean, I don't think they want to go quite this far, but like on the road at Nicaragua or on the road at Jamaica or on the road at even a team like, I don't know, Dominica. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the only person here, but I think it's just a little bit of a missed opportunity to not have some level of qualification. And let's be real, I'm sure that the qualification tournament will somewhere be in USA, Mexico, right? So not exactly harsh environments. I mean, yes, the Mexico games are going to be tight. You know, it's not like it's not going to be crazy. So I don't know. Y'all tell me if you feel like I'm wrong or not, but I just think that the fact that the U.S. especially gets this to bypass all of that, just go straight to a qualification tournament where they only have to win one game and they're into the World Cup. I don't know.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, because I would look at it from the perspective of, we always mention rising tides. So if you want to grow the game, then if you were to have Mexico, if you were to have the United States, if you were to have Canada go to Dominica or St. Lucia or St. Kitts and Nevis or Honduras or Nicaragua or something like that, where they can, give the rest of CONCACAF a marker. It's like, okay, here's where we are. Here's what it's like in this environment. And, who knows? You could have a moment like the men's national team have had in the past. I don't want to wish that on the women's national team, but, you could have those kinds of moments that are there, and what it would mean to that particular minnow going forward if you had them in those situations. So I get where you're coming from there.
Mm-hmm. I also think maybe this is again. No, I think maybe this is my other things. Like, I think the single elimination knockout tournament also kind of bums me out, because it's just like, all right, we're here. Go win one game. I don't know.
It's like, one game. We're thanks. You get your cameo in. You sit there, and it's like, yep, we're done. We're good. Thank you.
And I think this format in particular for this year is this way. That's, I think, what's getting me is we did have group stage in previous editions of this tournament, right? But for this one, it's just the single elimination knockout, and I don't know. I don't like it. I dislike it a lot.
So obviously we'll keep an eye on it. And also, if you have certain cable channels right now, the CONCACAF U17 women's tournament's going on right now, and it's the qualifiers. And if you want to take a look at some imports that are from the United States that are a part of their country's diaspora, and that was the word that was used. You're seeing there are some folks that are here in the United States who are using the family lineage to go back and play in the U17 tournament. So it's been I literally went through the rosters of the U17 teams that are going to be in this tournament in the group stage. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking for folks, and it's like, okay, oh wow. So there is some diaspora that has been influenced for U17s, and I think half of the squad for Trinidad and Tobago in the U17s, they went to lineage and genealogy to try to bring players in. So just kind of keep an eye on that. And like I said, it's on FS2 occasionally and on the webs and things like that. So if you want to keep an eye on that, you can. Also, wanted to get into men's national team stuff, and that kind of gets us into cards and calls at the end. So I'm going to save that one individual toward the end, and that'll get us into cards and calls, because it was an individual that had a dog so call, and Jarrett was up in arms over it. So getting in through everyone else on the weekend in the men's national team purview, you end up with obviously Crystal Palace and Chris Richards. My apologies. You end up with got the consolation goal in the loss to Chelsea. And Crystal Palace right now, Chris Richards gets his first goal of the season, but Crystal Palace is kind of going, they're regressing. And so despite what the American from Birmingham, Alabama is doing, Crystal Palace is kind of going like this. So keeping an eye on that. But huzzah to Chris Richards. Winless streak to 8 now for Crystal Palace. Jedi Robinson played 60. in the win against Brighton. And Tyler Adams still nursing his injury for Bournemouth. Brendan Aronson is playing Monday Night Football tonight at Everton. So that is the rundown. The rundown there. Tim Weah, second assist of the season for Marseille in their win against Lens. 10-game winning streak across all comps. You're looking at Marseille in third, Tanner Tessman's Lyon in fourth, Flair and Balogun with Monaco is in 10th, Toulouse is in 8th. So a bunch of 6s and 5s for them in France. Like 98,000 U.S. players are playing in Germany right now. And Joe Scally was not having a good day. Build on Joe Scally, quote, abysmal. He first set up the 0-1 with his chest. Then he deflected the 0-2 into his own goal himself. A total failure. So Malik Tillman and all that. So in those 3 countries, it was not a good day. 6 for both Damian Downs and Joe Scally. Miserable days for them.
Oh, man, yeah. Joe Scally with a just absolutely atrocious, no good, very bad day. I don't know. That was first on Damian Downs. No one played particularly well in the Hamburg derby. I don't know what you call that, the St. Pauli Hanover derby.
Hamburg.
But that was, I think it was supposed to be a little bit more fun than it was. And it kind of fell flat. I don't think anyone played well in that match. So I'm not going to hold Damian Downs hard on that.
No. But James Sands went the full 90 in a goalless draw with Hamburg for St. Pauli. Cups of coffee for Christopher Lund, Malik Tillman, Leonard Maloney. Noah Kai Banks was out on yellow card suspension. Injuries with Gio Reyna, Kevin Paredes, and Cole Campbell. Timothy Chandler and Marvin Dills did not dress. Unavailable because, so Borussia Mönchengladbach reports Gio Reyna was unavailable because of muscular problems. Okay. Muscular problems. That sounds very, very nebulous. Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic hasn't scored a goal in 5 now. Inter Milan's lead is now up to 5 over AC Milan. Weston McKennie's Juve gets a 3-0 win over Napoli. They're in third. So Weston McKennie has himself a good day. And here's Gazzetta dello Sport on McKennie. The true center forward perhaps is actually the American, or he's at least one of the center forwards. He is one for the way he appears in the heart of the penalty area all of a sudden. So Gazzetta dello Sport, very high on Weston McKennie in the Juve 3-0 win against Napoli.
Weston is, I don't know what happened, but he over the past couple months have started to become just a dynamic player for them. I mean, really important, productive. I mean, if you're looking at it from a USWNT perspective, which we are, that's great. I do think there are still questions out there about what is Mauricio Pochettino going to do with Weston McKennie? Because the only really time we've seen him play recently was as kind of a winger, advanced attacker, at least we'll put it that way, a wide attacker. Sure. I don't know if you want to call him a winger necessarily. But he definitely plays a little bit better, more centrally. But in this formation, that in the system that Pod plays, I mean, is he better than? Now, I'm going to answer my question. Is he better than Lee Tillman? Is he better than Gio Reyna? Is he better than any other player who plays at that number 10 position? The answer is yes. The problem is we haven't seen him there, and we're not quite sure where he's going to play because there's also the whole, well, could he play as like one of those eights? And Tyler Adams are back there doing all the cool Bash Brothers stuff. They just kind of take the ball from everyone, and then especially for Wes, now we're turning up field, and it's like, oh, dude's about to make a lot of people look real silly. That would be cool. We just don't know. I think that is still one of those problems. If the things we can be critical of Mauricio Pochettino now are still, what the hell does the starting 11 look like? We don't know.
That's a good problem to have, though, I would think.
I mean, I don't think we have. And that's where we're at. We haven't seen, and part of that is we haven't seen a fully fit 11 because Pochettino has allowed the club to say, oh, this dude's pinky toe kind of hurt this thing when he went into the training table, so we can't have him go over to the U.S., because apparently Americans don't deserve to play for their country, but all these other European countries absolutely they should play all the time.
Mhm.
But that is becoming a little bit of an annoyance, right? Is we just haven't quite seen what the best 11 is under Mauricio Pochettino, and that time is running out. Will we see that March 28th when they're playing right over there? I don't know. But I would assume, John, you would want to put your best 11 out there, or at least your perceived starting 11 out there before June 13th. But what do I know? I'm not Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah. So yeah, over there for me. Johnny goes 73 minutes for Atletico Madrid. Big win over Mallorca. We've got another moment with Atletico Madrid coming up later on in the show. Big Pat scored his 8th goal for Derby County.
Get paid? There's a moment for Atletico. Are we gonna get paid?
Yeah. Well, that's for from Botafogo. Yeah, from Botafogo and John Textor. Yeah, we're kind of sitting there and we're going, what? But yeah, Big Pat got his 8th for Derby with the 1-1 draw with West Brom. So literally, it was Big Pat versus George Campbell. Big Pat, Patrick Agumon, gets his 8th Champions League championship goal since his debut back in September. And then there's Austin Trusty. Austin Trusty, sir. Hearts and Celtic, they went at it, and Hearts continues to maintain their top spot in the table in Scotland. But it was not a moment that Austin Trusty really wanted to be kind of known for in the match. And you end up with Celtic going down to 10, second game in a row. Austin Trusty was adjudged following VAR to have gone dog-so, fouling Pierre Landry Cabore, trying to get to a through ball. And so then Hearts makes that count with 3 minutes to go. Then you get an 8-yard goal, and then Hearts get the win over Celtic. But as we get into cards and calls, it was a no good, very bad day for Austin Trusty following VAR, that it was a dog-so VAR, as a matter of fact. So as we get into cards and calls, did you get a chance to take a peek at that one? What'd you think?
Well, first off, I think this means they have to fire their manager, right? That's how this works for Celtic.
Pretty much, yeah.
Isn't that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, right? Because apparently not winning is only the fault of the dude that you hired from the Americas. So you should fire whoever is coaching them
Fire
now.
Austin Trusty.
Fire Austin Trusty. Yeah, look. Dog-so is going to be, no matter what your foul is, really, right? A dog-so moment like this is going to get you into trouble because if I'm correct, this was given a yellow card on the field.
I think, yeah. So let me walk through it. Oh, straight red.
Yeah.
Yeah, so straight red after VAR.
I couldn't remember if this went to VAR and was upgraded or not, but
oh no, wait, no, you're right. You got it. Yeah, yellow card upgraded to a red. You're correct. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. There were multiple VAR moments this weekend that I went, that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this one you see I'll let you walk through it, and then we'll break down the dog-so aspect of it for us.
Okay, so I'm trying to find. Once again, all 4 dog-so considerations have to be met for the red card to be offered, and so I'm trying to walk. So the four dog-sos, if you would please, sir, while I try and find the video, and I can sit there and I can walk everybody through
it. Distance, direction, distance, and finally defenders. Right. Maybe we should say defenders, distance, direction, distance, but there are 2 distances in there. So how many defenders are there left? What is the distance to goal, right? When we're talking about an obvious scoring opportunity, you need to be relatively close to goal. Direction, are you headed toward goal? Is the play headed toward goal? And then distance to the ball, basically, is the last kind of thing of, do you have a reasonable claim to say I could still play? Again, this was given a yellow card in live play.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Have you found it yet?
I'm waiting for the commercial to stop
Oh,
playing.
okay.
Yeah.
So that again, those are the four considerations for dog. So all four have to be met. This is not necessarily oh well, there's a lot of one and none of other.
Okay, so I found it. All right, so it
We'll
is
walk through it, and I'll explain why I kind of disagree with this call.
okay. So it is a long pass from midfield to basically the landing point is the attacking third, and so the Hearts forward is trying to get past Trusty, and you end up with they're kind of there's some hand fighting going on. The attacker for Hearts is past Trusty, and you see the Hearts attacker reach back with his right arm, trying to stiff Trusty away to create some distance. And Trusty is closing, and it is like about a 45-degree angle where the attacker is cutting across. Trusty is coming forward, and Trusty in his line is going to hit the right shoulder first. It looks like they kind of, I mean, is there any contact at all whatsoever? You know, I'm looking at it, and it's like you get the push forward, and then there's a long
trips them from behind.
Yeah, there's like a
I
long
think
stride.
that's
Trusty gets into it. Yeah. And then attacker goes down.
Here's why I have an issue with this.
Yeah.
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 I have an issue with this. So I think you mentioned, look, it's a foul. He does trip him from behind,
Yeah.
right?
Foul. Foul, I give you
what
that.
do you
It's
have yeah. So let's go through the D's then, right? And I'm going to go through the ones that I think are met first.
Mhm.
Distance to goal, I think this is fairly, you could say, relatively close to goal, right? Like he's
30, 25 to
halfway
30.
between the center line and the 18, maybe closer. I think distance-wise, we meet that criteria. Direction of play, well, look, it's going toward goal. I think it's possibly, maybe you could say, going more toward the corner flag. It's going to goal, right? Distance to the ball, obviously, I think this is met. They're hand fighting to win the ability to go win the ball, basically. And I think the attacker is well within his rights to say that I have a perfectly good play on that ball, especially given where other players are. Now, what I do have an issue with is the defenders aspect of this, because there is a defender running fairly in stride with them. Now, he's about 10 yards on the outside flank. If you're looking at the video, he's above this.
Yeah.
I kind of think there's a defender enough back there where you can justify that this is not, the last player back. Right now, we don't really consider goalkeeper, so we don't need to worry about that necessarily. But there is a defender there. Now, I guess the question is, does that defender have a foreseeable path to make a play on this attacker or the ball? I don't know. I mean, it just is one of those things where I don't. Maybe not, but I could see them have holding this ruling on the field, going, "Oh, there's a defender right there. It's just a yellow card." I struggled with this because I think the defender's element is not fully met. Right? I do not think this is the last defender necessarily. Even though, yes, Trusty is the final defender, maybe that you would have to beat. There's still a defender back there. So I kind of do think that. Had this been given a red card on the field, I think you could have said, well, that defender maybe wouldn't have been able to make a play on the ball. But it was given a yellow card, right? And that's where I don't know if this is a clear and obvious error to upgrade it to a red card. Now, let me be snarky for a second, since Jarrett Smith isn't here.
Yeah.
This is how you know Celtic has lost control of the Scottish Premier League or Premiership, because they should be getting calls like this. Yeah. And they're not. So up the jam tarts. We're going in and winning the league this year.
Mark Richt has lost control of the Scottish Premiership. All right. So Crystal Palace and Chelsea. I have two others, and
Yeah.
So I've got Crystal Palace and Chelsea and Wolves and Manchester City. And you have in Crystal Palace and Chelsea, it's 2-0 Chelsea in the 57th minute. And you have you have a shot that Dean Henderson saves, and then in the backwash of everything going forward, so Henderson sends it away, 57th minute. Now they come back down in the 59th. You have a cross that comes in, and then a shot from close range, edge of the 6, hits the defender who is standing on the line at the edge of the 6. Shot from close range, hits the defender, right arm. And then instantly you have 3, 4, 5 Chelsea players sitting there and going like this. And you have a handball situation that is given there, and they were wondering where it was. And it doesn't get called initially. And so you have that moment happen, and then it goes back to review. And in VAR, checking for a possible penalty for handball, it's interesting the momentum of the defender as the ball hits the defender in the right arm. So the defender is trying to, the arms are fairly down, but the arms are down by your side. So then the ball hits the defender almost like in the crook of the elbow, and that's what ends up being reviewed. And so as it hits him, the reflex action occurs and the arm goes backward. After it's like, oh, you've hit me, ow, kind of a thing. And you end up with the end result in the 62nd minute, 3 minutes after the event happened, was, for me, that was the first issue, taking a full 3 minutes for it to go down. You end up with a lengthy explanation, and you end up with a yellow and a penalty. Yep. So what happened here?
Well, I think in the explanation he gives away for me why there shouldn't have been a penalty. So first off, let's tackle handball considerations. Right? We're talking about a natural position. We're talking about momentum toward the ball, which is going to come into play here when I get my reasoning. And then there is the element of denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity because this does come inside the penalty area. Now, not given a handball on the field, I think it is fair to say, again, we're talking about a handball being below the armpit. It's the non-legal part of the arm. I think it very clearly hits a non-legal part of the arm, John. I think we can agree that when we watch this, yes. You think you said basically it hits
like the crook of the elbow.
Right? Yeah, the crook of the elbow. So it is absolutely in a non-playable part of the arm. However, that does not necessarily mean it is a handling offense. For me, seeing the arm go back in a very, almost instantaneous, the ball hits him and it goes backward. To me, that signals that the player was not deliberately making a play on the ball, right? So this is one of the considerations we are allowed to use for a handball. And I think this comes into play, especially when we have VAR, to truly look at this. Again, we do not judge intent, but we can judge if it was a deliberate action. Those are two different words, John. Your mother would be very happy breaking down these definitions.
Yes.
We cannot judge intent. Intent is a mental thing, right? But we can judge if it's deliberate based on the action taken. In looking at a handball, a deliberate action would mean we don't know if it's intentional, but we can see if it's deliberate by the arm moving toward the ball or moving, in some cases, maybe moving further out to make yourself more unnaturally bigger.
Right.
This, I don't think, has that movement. If anything, his arm is going behind him. I did have a problem with this being elevated to a handball. And then again, if I'm remembering correctly, he said that the reason it is a yellow card is because it was an accidental.
Yes.
So then why are we calling it a handball?
Yeah.
What check did Todd Bowley write? There's my snarky Chelsea comment. But
Hey,
that to me, I mean, you admitted it was accidental.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. This did not sit right with me, John, because I think as you mentioned, I think you had 7 minutes of VAR review or some lengthy
Yeah.
review. So to me, you're now looking at, and granted, I do understand that there are multiple levels of is it a handball and then is it a red card, right? Because most of the time, when you're giving a handball offense inside the penalty area, you do have an element of dogs that you do have to look at. And obviously, this is a shot that's been blocked using or with the arm. But I don't know. The momentum going backward immediately upon contact of the arm, like that to me signals that this was not a deliberate play on the ball, a deliberate handball, and should not have been given. That's just me.
Okay. I know that Ropes has a question about Harry Maguire from Arsenal and Manchester United, and I know what your instant response is.
I'm not going to talk about that game.
That's what I figured.
Cheaters.
Manchester City and Wolves is the last one, and it is 1-0 Manchester City, 35th minute. And it has to do with, once again, a handball question, we'll phrase it that way, and a very confident center ref. You have contact inside the 18, goes to VAR, and it is with Marmouche coming down the near side, and Mosqueda is between him and the rest of the activity. So Marmouche settles, kicks it back, and it hits Mosqueda with arms open, and it hits him. It hits him. I mean, it hits him halfway. I mean, it hits him what?
I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and so if it hits Mosqueda, arms open wide, and he goes like this, and it hits him basically at the halfway point, then it goes to VAR, and the center ref was confident in his call and disregards VAR in his ultimate decision and says that it's not.
I will say this. I prefer the ultimate decision to be made by the official on the field. And from his viewpoint, he said, no, I do not think this is a handball. My issue is this looked way more like a handball than what happened in the Chelsea match. Now, I will say the difference here is this is not a shot on goal, right? That doesn't necessarily put into the filter, but you are looking at dog so with the other handball. We do have an element of dog there, right? This one, I mean, to me, he said arms wide open. I mean, yeah, his arm is pretty far with arms wide open.
Yeah, thank you.
His is pretty far out there. I'm just trying to be as cool as your wife and,
hey,
singer. Aren't we all?
I'm not. I'll tell you that right now.
John, it's him on the bicep and his arm is pretty. I mean, it hits him between. For me, it hits him between the bicep and elbow. So I think we're very clearly in there's a handball, illegal part of the arm zone. Yeah. I just feel like the arm is that way out. It's probably a handball. You talk about unnatural because he even to me changes the position of his arm.
Mosqueda changes his stride
during his run. Right.
Yeah. So Mosqueda is to the inside.
Run like this.
Yeah. I mean, Marmouche is closest to the camera as he's trying to turn inside the 18. So ball is dropped in a bucket for Marmouche to get to. First touch,
beautiful.
He hits it with his right boot, ends up kicking backward, and Mosqueda, who is off of Marmouche's right shoulder, literally as he's running goes like this. He's striding and then he opens up, and then to me that's like that should have been a no-brainer. But
I agree.
But center ref basically said, even with VAR, that nope, and so that was where we were.
And this is where again, I like the center referee being able to look at VAR and use that as a tool to come up with a final decision. I don't know if he got it right though.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And Pep Guardiola was none too happy after the match about that particular call. What is up at Soccer for USPod as you get ready for the second friendly in this window for the WNT in Santa Barbara coming up tomorrow with Chile?
Well, that's exactly what we'll have these two matches to talk about. I think first off, John, I do want to hit. This is cool. They're playing in Santa Barbara and the Gaucho Herder Stadium, home of the Gauchos, a stadium steeped in soccer history. UCSB, pretty decent soccer program on the men's and women's side. This is cool. I just want to point that out. Like it's very cool that the U.S. women are going to be playing in a new stadium, a new venue. The men have played here a couple times, but the women have never played here. We will be recapping all this next week on the Soccer for Us pod because I'll be, hopefully, John, I don't think I'll have any problem, but hopefully I'll be on to Miami tomorrow morning for a trade show, and I will be busy doing that for the next couple days. Although it is supposed to be in the 60s for the highs, so I'm not even getting warm weather. Oh, well.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk to you about that. Okay. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on all the things. As always, it's great to catch up with you on Mondays and run through anything and everything going on with national teams and the NWSL and all the things. It's always great to see you, my friend.
Can I make
Yes.
an Atlanta United statement?
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We are coming up on our first preseason game, right? I
Yes.
think it's this weekend.
Friday. It's Friday.
Okay.
Friday.
So
Friday.
I think I'm allowed to say some Atlanta United things. I think, and I often come on here and criticize the club because someone on here has to criticize the club. But I think the twos playing half their games at UGA is a fantastic move from the club. I think that it is, no offense to all those people who do go to the games up in Kennesaw, it's become whatever. Sorry, it just has. It's obviously too big of a stadium for them. You know, it's not like the field is any better than what you're going to get at UGA at an actual soccer specific facility. I think this is a great move from them. It also, in theory, branches out a little bit and brings the product to a slightly different consumer. You know, again, I'm not going to assume. I will look with some reasonable logic to say that people in Kennesaw can just as easily come see the real team play as opposed to the second team. Similar to the reason why I think the Stripers don't have quite the attendance that they probably should, because people in Gwinnett can still just hop on over and go see the actual games.
Because everybody's stuck in traffic going to see the Stripers, man. You got to deal with rush hour.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other problem. It's not like if you're going to go through traffic, you might as well go to see the real Braves band, not the fake ones.
Leave it 3:30.
Yeah, I think this is a great move, and I do want to just point that I think this is a really smart way to put the twos in probably a little bit better environment, and put them in front of different people, and hopefully, you know, the attendance is. Here's the thing: if the attendance is the same, it's going to look a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for you all who call the game, it's probably a little bit worse because now you got to change plans and drive farther. But you know, Athens has cool places to eat, cool places to drink, and you know, I think also having the confines be red and black as opposed to yellow is probably also kind of cool as well. So anyway, good job Atlanta for making that decision.
All right. So please be safe heading down to your trade show and dress for two separate conditions of temperature. You got to dress for the morning, got to dress for the evening. So you got to pack twice, basically.
I know. I'm flying down tomorrow morning to go to the trade show that day.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to figure out like how I dress for the 20-degree weather that I'll be leaving for, and then get down in Miami. It'll still be like it's 60s, but still it's like it's definitely warmer. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, keep us posted and post the socials, please.
Of course.
All right. Be safe, my friend. We will see you coming
Bye,
up
y'all.
next week.
Stay warm.
Yes, exactly. There goes Bart. So, as always, great to catch up with Bart. And the twos are going to be starting their season at UGA, and that goes into the summer and through the World Cup and the Home dates after the World Cup, they don't know yet. They don't have a resolution for that, or they haven't let us know where that's going to be yet. To be determined at a later date. And the Twos are going to start their season up in Athens. So very, very cool stuff there. And as always, thanks to Bart for putting up with all of my silly questions here on Monday. Couple of things that we got to get into before we get out of here. And we got to get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Got to get into the news of the day, who might be heading where and who's doing what. So here is what we know. Yesterday, we mentioned Johnny Cardoso, and we mentioned his 73 minutes. It was 2-0 at one point, but then it ended up at 3-0 because of this moment from this guy. You might know him.
Ou de game tombeur de Manchester City lors du tour précédent, de la journée précédente.
Faut le faire.
3-1 en plus, hein.
Ouais.
Thiago Almada! Oh, Thiago Almada!
Quel but! Golasso!
Insaisissable et foudroyant. Thiago Almada 3-0.
Oh, je l'ai énervé là. Almada, j'ai dit qu'il avait.
And yes, it was in French. So, but, goal in French. And I learned that when I was when I went through my hockey years. But yes, that was in French. And yes, it was La Liga, and it was 3-0 for Atletico de Madrid. And they are at 44 points. They're third in the table, and they are 3 points clear of Villarreal, who has a match in hand. Villarreal and Girona and Getafe and Levante are the only teams that have not played in match week 21 yet. So Villarreal, 13-2-5, 3 points behind Atletico de Madrid. If they win, they're even on points, but unless the match is a blowout, then Villarreal is still behind on goal difference. I would anticipate goal difference is going to be a little closer if Villarreal wins. But right now, Atletico de Madrid, third in the table in La Liga, behind Barcelona and Real Madrid. Barcelona, by the way, has lost 3 times in 21. They've only drawn once. Real Madrid has lost twice and drawn 3 times. Atletico de Madrid, 13-5-3, 44 points. They're that second pairing. Barcelona, Real Madrid, 1-2. Atletico de Madrid, Villarreal, 3-4. And then everybody else. Espanyol's at 34, Real Betis 32, ahead of Celta de Vigo on goal difference. And then you really get into the fight. Real Sociedad is at 27, and then Getafe is at 21 in 18th. So you're looking at 10 teams separated by, or 11 teams separated by 6 points in La Liga right now. But Atletico de Madrid has nothing to do with that because they're third at 44. And the latest involving Thiago Almada is Palmeiras. After we were discussing it last week with Atletico de Madrid and Galatasaray on a loan, Thiago Almada was looking for minutes. He was looking, reports had him being positive toward the move to Galatasaray, but the club turned, meaning Atletico de Madrid, turned that down on a loan deal. And so right now, Palmeiras we're back to Palmeiras kicking the tires on the idea, and no resolution yet on the $31 million-ish that is owed Atlanta United from John Textor. And it could be that once again, you could have either 2 transfers or 3, or 2 transfers and a loan deal involving Thiago Almada before Atlanta United gets paid. Just saying. All right. Let me see. What else did I have on the table this morning? Okay. Here is latest transactions as we know them. You have, let's see. Fluminense and Kevin Serna. Wolves have rejected a bid on, of course, everything just starts to collapse. Wolves have rejected an €8 million bid for left back David Müller-Wolf, and David Müller-Wolf is deemed too low. Wolves prefer to keep him. Of course, you all do with a week to go in the window. So let's check with our buddy Ben Jacobs, find out what else is going on. Dan Neal's in Ipswich to complete a straight loan deal from Sunderland. Birmingham City close to signing Alaves swinger Carlos Vicente for around £7 million. Flamengo confident of agreeing for a deal on Lucas Paquetá this week. Advanced talks with West Ham continue over the payment terms. €41 million, not 40, but 41 is where we are right now. Nottingham Forest academy product heading to the Saudi Pro League. Fulham preparing a bid for Manchester City winger Oscar Bobb, looking like it's going to be in the excess of £30 million. Chelsea have confirmed signing a 17-year-old left back from Sheffield Wednesday on a contract through summer 28 for £500,000. Dortmund confirming Aaron Anselmino has been recalled from his Chelsea loan. We mentioned Guido Rodriguez heading to Valencia from West Ham, heading that way, and the Ivan Neyu part from Getafe. Let's see, what else are we missing? Bournemouth and reaching the agreement in principle for keeper Christos Mandas, loan with a conditional obligation. From Lazio, Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs together, paying a loan fee of £1.3 million, a £16 million conditional obligation to buy triggered by appearances. If it's not triggered, Bournemouth must pay £850,000. Andy Robertson's going to remain at Liverpool as it stands. Liverpool do not currently feel in a position to sell. Exit talks, according to Ben, always handled with the best interests. Decision not to sanction the departure, one made by both club and player acting in good faith. Spurs also understood to have handled negotiations respectfully, according to Ben, reached an agreement in principle. But for now, Liverpool and Andy Robertson have called off the move. So that is the latest from Ben Jacobs. Let's check with Tommy Scoops, because there are a few moves that have gone down in Major League Soccer. Right now, Fulham and Ricardo Pepi, a new $38 million deal is on the table, €32 million. Fabrizio Romano first. According to Bogert, PSV is saying that Fulham's bid is not enough. Gap is closing. Keep an eye on that one. There is optimism. You've got a week to go in the window. LA Galaxy's finalizing the deal that we talked about last week with Joao Klaus, with our buddy Nico Moreno. Looks like it is a $2 million intra-league transfer, straight cash, homie, going from LAG to St. Louis City SC. And if this does go down, or when it does go down, we're going to catch up with our friends from Ball Watching and see if we can analyze what's going on with St. Louis City this season if they lose Joao Klaus. Musa Sila, joining on a DP deal for NYCFC, has bought down Thiago Martins. Tom has been told 3 DPs right now. Nico Fernandez, Sila, and Talis Magno, who's back from loan and in preseason. Left out of Schalke's squad on the weekend, and Florian Plettenberg was one of the ones to mention. That one left out of Schalke's squad, 16 goals in the second tier last year. So Musa Sila from Schalke, according to Florian Plettenberg. Crew and Jason Russell Rowe, player of interest, outbound on the window closing. A Ligue 1 club, according to Bogert, among those with serious interest, one to watch over next week, and contract expires at the end of 26. Also on the board, let me see if anything outside of Sila and Pepi. Rosario Central finalizing a deal to sign winger Julian Fernandez on loan from NYCFC. Deal includes a purchase option. Join the club for a fee around $5 million. 7 + 8 and 77 apps for NYC. Started 14 matches last year. NYC was in the market for a new forward with Alonso Martinez out with a torn ACL, and that was why Sila came in and was a part of their thought pattern. It is Toronto FC has announced their updated 26 preseason schedule. It is let's see, 5 matches, January 28th, closed-door scrimmage against Incheon United, K-League 1 and Korea Cup winners Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors on the 31st, AIK Football on February 7th, and February 11th, it's Fredrikstad FK. Then it's Policia Zitomir on February 14th. And you have the beginning and the end of those are closed doors, and that is TFC's 5 matches coming up for their preseason. Also on the board, we mentioned Daniel Franco Negri, according to Cesar Luis Merlo, the new reinforcement for Houston Dynamo, free agent from San Diego, signing a 1-year deal with an option for another. He's got a green card, so he does not take up an international slot for them. Mati Bogish, according to Cesar Luis Merlo, traveling to Houston today to undergo medical exams, signing with the Dynamo for 3.5 years, option for 1 more. Transfer $6 million plus 4 in bonuses, plus the sell-on percentage was initially thought. Right now, doesn't appear that is a part of this dynamic. Right now, it's just the $6 million up front plus 4, and that's already agreed to. So keep an eye on Mati Bogish now going to Houston. Houston doing a lot of moves in the offseason. Let's see. We mentioned Carlos Vicente, and we mentioned Oscar Bob. Nottingham Forest looks like they might be putting together a bid for Jean-Philippe Mateta from Crystal Palace. in a possible January move, believed to be in the neighborhood of £35 million there. Also, let's see. No, that's not what I want. Also, from our friends at Talk Sport, Dortmund have been furious by Chelsea's decision to recall Anselmino from his loan spell, and it was an agreement which included a break clause. Chelsea are already in the transfer market to add a center back, have now once again added Anselmino back. They have contractual rights on both Anselmino and Mamadou Sarr, who's on loan to Strasbourg. Liam Rosenior's first deal, bringing Anselmino back into the fold. Reports in Germany understand that Dortmund are furious with Chelsea's decision to trigger the option now with only a week left in the window. So Chelsea not making any friends. Keeping an eye out on that one. This one was interesting, and it doesn't have anything to do with on the field. How many of you remember Alexandre Pato? Purple team picked him up late in his career, and he tried to stay healthy, couldn't do it. It's a great idea, but it didn't come to fruition. It appears, according to Talk Sport, Pato is a part of a consortium interested in the takeover of Colchester United in League Two. He was at the JobServe Community Stadium as a guest of owner Robbie Cowling to observe the win over Fleetwood Town. Talks advancing. No announcement is imminent. Colchester had been looking for an owner since last September, and it looks like Alexandre Pato and friends might be kicking the tires on that one going forward. So you got that. On the weekend, when it came to other gossip, rumor, and innuendo really quickly, let me get all of the other news that might be out there this morning. Gossip, we'll see if there's anything that has been missed. Manchester City apparently keeping tabs on Trent Alexander-Arnold as uncertainty grows, according to Team Talk, over his future at Real Madrid. Liverpool have contacted Xabi Alonso's reps to inquire about his availability, reportedly giving a positive response to his former club's approach. That's from AS. Bournemouth close to completing the signing of Vasco da Gama's Ryan, the 19-year-old, on a permanent deal from David Ornstein. Lazio have submitted an offer of worth up to £15 million for Everton's midfielder Tim Aruegbenam. Chelsea, Manchester United tracking Rennes striker Mohamed Kadir Maiti. Rennes have rejected Chelsea's approach for Jeremy Jacquet, but the Blues want to do something in the summer to pick up the 20-year-old Fabrizio Romano on that one. You've got Borussia Mönchengladbach keeper Jonas Omlin, target for Sunderland, has joined Leverkusen on loan till the end of the year. Wrexham have registered interest in Southampton's Adam Armstrong. Saints want $15 million for him, so keep an eye on that. Middlesbrough got to Jeremy Sarmiento from Brighton before Birmingham City did. 4.5-year deal, £3.2 million. Let's see, we mentioned Vicente. Hull City's Charlie Hughes, once again being looked at as a replacement for Mark Gahey, since Gahey is now at Manchester City. And let's see if there's any other names that are out there. Not at the moment. Okay, so that's gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Now from the Premier League, obviously from the weekend, it was, rough for Arsenal. Sorry, Bart. The fact that I kind of kept that one until the end, I apologize for that one. But you end up with a closer. Everybody's thinking, "Oh, the title race is back on," after what happened on the weekend with Arsenal and Manchester City and Aston Villa getting closer and closer and closer. We do have Monday Night Football, by the way. Everton and Leeds, 3:00 Eastern. Everton at home. Bramley Mordaka plus 152. Leeds on the road at plus 195, and your draws at plus 215. The results from the past weekend: Manchester United beats Arsenal 3-2 at a plus 480. Patrick Dorgu just hit an absolute bomb at one point. Nottingham Forest shuts out Brentford 2-0 at a plus 340. Chelsea wins at Crystal Palace. We mentioned that their winless streak is now at 8. Villa wins on the road as a big underdog at a plus 227 at Newcastle. Sorry, Alex. Bournemouth in a shocker at the Vitality beat Liverpool 3-2. Spurs and Burnley a 2-2 draw. Fulham beats Brighton 2-1. Manchester City shuts out Wolves. West Ham in a shock win, frankly, beats Sunderland by the score of 3-1. And I think that they're regressing to the mean. You've also got in your standings, once again, the margin is now 4 among Arsenal, City, and Villa. City is well ahead of Villa on goal difference. The Chase Pack, Manchester United's now at 38 points. They're 4th. Chelsea's 5th at 37. Liverpool, Fulham, Brentford scored more goals than Newcastle, Sunderland, Everton. That gets you from 4th to 11th, 8 teams, 6 points. Brighton is 12th at 30, ahead of Bournemouth on goal difference. Spurs, everybody's saying, oh, they're in a relegation fight. They're 8 points clear. Spurs, they have not won in 5 in domestic competition. 28 points ahead of Palace, well ahead of Palace on goal difference. Palace has lost 3 of 4. Leeds, once again today, if they get a win at Everton, they could, let's see, 7, they'd be closer. They'd be at 28 points. They'd be closer in the logjam. They'd still be in 16th unless they really just wallop Everton. Everton, with any kind of a result, could be 10th, could be as high as 7th with a win today. Forest is at 25 points. They've won 2 of 3. They're unbeaten in 3. They are 5 points clear of West Ham, who's won 2 in a row at 20 points. Burnley has drawn 3 in a row. They're at 15, and Wolves 1, 5, and 17. They are at 8 points and 17 points from safety. So that's currently where the issues are with Wolves. Did you see this? Sean Dyche, and this is the headline from the Times. Joe Harston. Sean Dyche declares war on towels for throw-ins. He's declared war on towels. He's asked about the time his team spent running down the clock on set pieces, and he responded by explaining how many teams use different methods to gain an edge in a match, fine margins. Quote, that's what a long throw brings. It brings a setup, brings time, brings delay. There's lots of different things. They have towels on the sidelines. I can't work that out. Nothing against Brentford. It's the rules. How can a home team be allowed to decide if they have towels on the sidelines or not? Why not in the Premier League? Just go, no towels. Just get on with the game. Just adds in another layer of things for us to talk about and for us to worry about. So Sean Dyche doesn't like towels. Okay. Good for you. Sean Dyche and towels have disagreements. I'm waiting for Ultras at any upcoming Forest match to just, I don't know, like throw terry cloth at him or something. That to me would be a hoot. The first group of fans that throw terry cloth at Sean Dyche, that would be absolutely amazing. And I would love to see it. That would be fantastic. Dell wants to know how close Wolves are to being relegated. So 17 points right now would be 5 matches. So if you get to, let's see, so where are we in this? Where are we? Okay, so match week 23. You're 17 points out. So safely, if you said 5, that's 15. So 5 from 38 is 33, 10 matches. You are 10 matches away from Wolves being relegated and probably being one of the worst. So 10 matches left. So 10 matches, if you say 5, gives you 15 points. That would get you to 23, just to be on the safe side. So 5 matches from there. So 28, 30. So you've got 10 matches to determine how close they'd get. So I would say within 10 matches, you could determine whether or not Wolves gets relegated or not. So that's just basic math here when it comes to that. All right. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Brought to us by our friends at Fanatis. fntz.co/soccer down here. And with Fanatis, once again, you can get a whole bunch of stuff on your television or on your streaming service. You go to fntz.co/soccer down here. That link is important. Helps them, helps us, helps you. Adding more matches to everything you're already watching. You get all the BNs, and they had the CAF Champions League on all day Sunday, by the way. Teise, matches Argentina, Peru, Colombia, more leagues South America. You get Libertadores, Sudamericana, all in one place, one subscription, one home at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. So we mentioned Everton and Leeds is Monday Night Football. Noon, you've got Ayopspor and Besiktas, being an Espanol simulcasting. That's on Fanatis. CBS Sports Network at 12:30 has the league we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. Girona Getafe at 3 on ESPN Deportes is also on the Plus. Verona Udinese is on Fox Deportes at 2:45, in addition to the 12:30 match that we don't talk about. Fox ONE is simulcasting, as is foxsports.com. Verona Udinese is on Paramount Plus. Norwich and Coventry City's at 3 o'clock. The Josh Sargent saga continues. Is he going to be anywhere close to Philippe Clement's match day roster? Doubtful. Coventry City and Frank Lampard can continue to put some distance between themselves and everybody else on the top of the championship. Fox ONE has the U17 championship, 1, 6, and 8 triple header. Fox Soccer Plus has activity at 3 and 5. So if you've got Fox Soccer Plus or Fox ONE, you can watch all the U17 championship stuff, 1, 6, and 8 on ONE and Soccer Plus at 3 and 5. So that gets you everything going on today on your devices. Once again, go to Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. And it's, once again, helps them, helps us, helps you, adding more matches to everything you're already watching. Fanati's, you get all the BNs, and that just gets you started. CDO, Nuestra Tele for the fans, TC, TVV, Tigo Sports, CATV, I've seen, all in one place at Fanatics, fntz.co/soccer down here. Okay. Dell had mentioned that our old friend Laurent Kisiadou, who Ben Pierman knew from his time in Memphis, is now hanging out in Charleston, got signed over the weekend. And for Dell, his Marseille beat Lens, Ethan Wanyeri, goal in the 13th minute. And let's see, morning ropes. Yeah, and the 3-1 match against Charlotte. Trialist alert, goal. Goal from the trialist. And let's see what else is here. So let's see, morning Michael and morning Lokeville. And let's see, Abby and David. And I'm trying to see what else is here. Friday AM temperatures 29, high is 46. Yeah, so I think the match is going to get pushed back from 11 o'clock. So let's see, morning Ricky, morning Abby, and that's where we are. And I appreciate Bart saying that you're not allowed to say anything negative on the show about Atlanta United. That's not true. But what we prefer to do and what we do is we analyze things within context. It's not just match, everything is this, everything is this. You just take it as the steps in the process. And that's how we look at things. It's analysis and being critical within the analysis. And so it's not just the it's for a double negative. I was about to do a double negative, but we are critical. We are disappointed, just like the rest of you. So, and I know that Bart was doing some needling as well. So that's all part of it. Our high school schedule is getting ready, and that's going to be starting on the 10th. So we're almost like 2 weeks away from that, which is crazy. So the high school schedule is going to be the sprint that it always is. I think we're going to bring back the Red Clay Wednesday show, and we'll take the tour with everybody that goes on there as well. I'm trying to see if I missed anything news-wise. I'm trying to see, did I miss anything? It's $38 million for Pepe. I think we're good there. And I'm checking the papers before we get out of here. This is Michael Carrick turning himself into a de facto coach for Manchester United. Is the coaching search being wiped away by Michael Carrick and all of the results that we're seeing? And keep an eye on all of that as we go. Okay. Let me see if I missed anything else. It looks like we're getting a new 3D from Drew. And so, yes, the everything that you heard from Drew is all a part of everything. Felipe Dos Santos has joined Danny Dichio's coaching staff at Detroit City. And I think that's it. I think we are here today. So 3D coming out a little later today, and all of this content obviously is going to be going to all of the places that it goes. Yeah, really, Abby, let him stay if they continue to win. Like I said, I think you might be turning the coaching search into a real easy one. Point to within. Back at it again tomorrow, 9:05 a.m. Eastern time. Abby, be safe. Everybody stay safe. Turn your faucets on tonight because it's going to be massively cold. And the last thing we need is frozen pipes from anybody. And I've been running pipes for like the last 3 days. And the next 2 games for Manchester United. Yeah. So listen to the 3D coming up from Drew coming up here later on, early this afternoon. Obviously, the show and its content will be out later today as well. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to Abe. Thanks to y'all. Back at it again tomorrow. Keeler Hodges from the USL show, at Keeler Hodges at the USL show. He's going to be joining us for his monthly review as they're getting into season, and we'll discuss everything there. Lead story is probably going to be Jay Heaps going from the boardroom to the touchline. He's going to I'm going to do it myself. So we're going to talk to Keeler about that. That'll be tomorrow on the show, and we'll get you ready for the rest of the week. Chad Emerson from Huntsville City is going to be joining us on Wednesday, and we got the Power Hour Thursday, everything else going on. I think we might be catching up with one of the host cities as well, and that'll be on the show this week as well. So once again, back at it a little less than 22. Thanks to all of y'all, and as always, and before we get out of here, one more thing. If you are so inclined, go to ATLUTDVIPs.com. They did a very, very humbling write-up of us here at SDH, and they asked me some questions about it. They asked Jason and Jarrett questions, and it's about the growth of SDH. And Eric over at ATLUTDVIPs gave me far too much credit for everything that's going on. It is truly a group effort with everybody here. And I couldn't, I couldn't function on a daily basis if it wasn't for everybody else here. So go. It's a good read. It's about 10 minutes, a bit of a back and forth with me and with Jarrett and with Jason. And like I said, very, very humbling to have been reached out to have something written where a lot of your quotes are in the article. So go give it a peek, share it if you would. Just talks about us at SDH and the growth, but very, very humbled to have been asked. But a lot more of the credit goes to Jarrett, Nick, and Maddie, and Sophia, and Jason than it does to me on a daily basis. I'll tell you that right now. So let you know about everything else going on. Back at it again, less than 22 hours. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Mucha platial. Play it safe. Back at you again, 9:05 tomorrow morning for Tuesday Thoughts here in SDH AM.